Welcome to the channel. Today, we are going to give you DMZ builds for every single weapon in the game. That is over 70 builds in this video alone. Now, I'm not going to show you tuning per weapon because it would take way too long. However, this video is also going to have a tuning guide. I'm going to teach you guys the do's, don'ts, and tricks when it comes to tuning your weapons in DMZ. Now, we are going to be building generalized builds for all the weapons. So for assault rifles, we're going to be doing long range builds. For SMGs, we're going to be doing close range builds. For battle rifles, we're going to be doing mid-range builds. For shotguns, close range builds. LMGs, long range builds. Marksman rifles, mid-range and long range builds. Sniper rifles, long range builds. And pistols, close range builds and water builds. Now keep in mind, there are a few weapons that are exceptions. For instance, there are assault rifles that are designed for close range and things of that nature. And if you enjoy this type of content, make sure to subscribe for more. Let's go. This is how to tune in DMZ. Now, general guidelines are below me, okay? For each weapon category, these are the stats that you want to focus the most on when tuning for those specific weapon categories. Now, we are not talking about niche builds. We're not talking about quick scope snipers. We're not talking about building a close range gun into a long range gun or a long range gun into a close range gun. We're not talking about any of the goofy niche fun builds. We're talking about general DMZ builds that'll get you a long way through the game and will let your gun function as intended, as best as it can. All right? So keep those stats in mind when we're doing the tuning here. Again, there's some do's and don'ts when it comes to tuning and some little tricks that you guys need to know. Now, if you want to be lazy, you can absolutely be like, hey, I want ADS speed and move it all the way down there, right? You can do that, but that is not optimal, okay? There are sweet spots inside of tuning. Now, the way that you find the sweet spots is when you are moving this bar up and down, you really have to take a look at this graph, okay? I want to show you. So if we set this thing to 0, now, in terms of assault rifles, which we are currently working on an M4, right, in terms of tuning, we're going to want to go with ADS speed when it comes to these two options. Flinch resistance, we don't care about it. It doesn't do enough, okay? So we're gonna go with ADS speed on the optic, the AIM Op V4 optic. Okay, now when I start to move here, you're going to see the handling section increase, okay? Watch it increase. However, there is a point when these tend to plateau. What that means is they tend to stop moving up and increasing at a certain point, which doesn't necessarily mean maximum. Okay, so if we watch it, you move it really slow and you can see it's inching up little by little until about right here. Okay, and I say right here because if we go past 1.80, you're going to see it retract and go back down just a little bit. Now watch really closely. Okay, again, it's going up until we get to 1.8, and the second we get to 1.8, see it starts to go pull back, right? So again, and then it starts to go back out. So it goes like up and down once you go past 1.8. So that lets you know that 1.8 is that sweet spot for tuning, okay? That is the general gist of how you tune, excluding one of the tuning stats in the game. And that one tuning stat in the game that is different than all the other tuning stats in the game where the sweet spot does not apply is on the optics. It's this close and far, okay? It doesn't matter what it says on the accuracy portion right here. That doesn't matter. What this is doing, it is bringing the optic closer to your face or farther from your face, okay? That is purely preference. In fact, you don't even have to touch it if you don't want to, okay? You could just leave it just like that. However, through tons of testing, when it comes to things like visual recoil, okay, when using fully automatic weapons, it is best advised to push it to far because by moving the optic further away from your face, there's less shake in front of your screen, typically making it easier to see your target and control the recoil. So when it comes to fully automatic guns, typically you would want to push them to far, but at the end of the day, it's not that crazy of a difference and it's going to be preference regardless. So Now, with having taught you that sweet spot in mind when we are messing with the up and down tuning between flinch and ADS speed, and we are using this graph to determine that sweet spot, we're going to tune the rest of the gun just so I show you guys how it's done. Again, if you're tuning other weapons that you've seen within the video that we have here for all the weapon builds in DMZ, again, use the stats down below me, use those stats, prioritize those stats when tuning your weapon, okay? So we're going to move on to the high tower barrel now. We're going to tune that. Between the two here, again, we have recoil steadiness and we have aim walking speed. Now, if we look at the list below me, what is the #1 stat that we need to focus on for assault rifles? It's recoil, okay? The second one is damage range, and the third one is aiming stability. So out of these two stats, what are we going to move towards? We're going to move towards recoil steadiness so that our gun can be as accurate as possible at those mid to long ranges where we want to be using the assault rifle, right? So again, we're going to move this thing up and down, and you're going to see this graph change. Again, we want to look for that sweet spot. We want to look for where it plateaus. So we're looking at the recoil section here, right? Okay, so again, boom, we're at 0. We're going to push it up. We're going to watch that go up. But notice that about right here at 0.18 pounds, the recoil plateaus. And if we continue to push it up, it actually hurts our mobility without even increasing the recoil. Notice that, right? So again, we want to stop right here at 0.18. That's going to give us the best recoil control with also not hurting our mobility. That's the sweet spot, okay? Now we go down below. We have aim down sight speed and we have damage range. Between these two, what do we pick? Again, look at the stats below me. We have recoil, damage range, and aiming stability. So for the assault rifle, we are going to focus on damage range. Now, if you were building a close range build, you could definitely go with ADS speed. But for this build, it's a generalized M4 build built for mid to long range. We're going to be going for damage range, okay? So we're going to push this thing and we're going to watch the range stat right here, right? Watch that increase, okay? Now you're going to notice it's barely increasing. It is increasing. You'll also notice that the damage range is increasing, that the handling is decreasing. Okay, keep these stats in mind. You're going to notice that when looking at the tuning chart, when you're messing with these, you're going to see that the handling is red, the damage is green, the green. These are the stats that are being affected by the tuning. You can see mobility is being slightly affected, recoil and accuracy are being slightly affected. That also has to do with the tuning on the left side as well. So keep that in mind. So again, we're going to push that up. Look at the range and the damage. Okay, that's the things that you need to pay attention to. The range and the damage. Those two are going to increase, right? And mobility actually at a certain point is actually getting better, which is, or not mobility, sorry, handling, which is great. So we're going to push this up until it plateaus, and it plateaus at about right there at 0.11 inches on the damage range to ADS speed. All right, boom, we're good. That's all set. Now we're going to go to the Gauge 9 mono. Again, recoil, ADS speed. What do we pick for assault rifles? Recoil. So we're going to go with recoil. Whether it's recoil stability, recoil smoothness, recoil control, we're going to move towards recoil, okay? Again, watch that recoil down here and look for that sweet spot. So we can just move it up and down really quick to kind of see where it slows down. Starts to slow down around here. Okay, so it's plateauing at about right there, 0.54. Boom. Let's go down to the bottom. We have aiming idle stability and bullet velocity. Again, if you look at the stats down below, what do we want to focus on? Recoil, damage range, aiming stability. The reason we're focusing on aiming stability over bullet velocity is because aiming stability is also affecting your recoil. Aiming stability is how your gun kind of has a constant sway. So if you reduce that sway, it's going to make your recoil tighter. So aiming stability, just like recoil, is something we need to focus on. So again, we're going to move to the left, right? We're going to focus on the left. And this one is typically going to boost the accuracy stats. So watch the accuracy stat right here. We're going to watch that climb. And that's going to plateau at about 0.44. Boom. That's tuned. Okay, now we're going to go down to the FTAC Ripper, the last attachment we have to tune. Again, ADS speed, recoil. For assault rifles, we're going recoil. Let's watch that recoil stat, which is again going to be right here. Watch for its plateau. Okay, I already saw where it plateaus and then retracts. So it's going to stop right there, 0.24. Now, at the bottom, we have aim walking speed, aiming idle stability. No brainer, we're going aiming stability. Again, helps our recoil. Watch that accuracy stat. Boom, back and forth. Now this thing, unfortunately, is barely moving, and this does happen sometimes in tuning. Some stats don't get adjusted that much. So you can see that it's barely moving, and instead, if we push really far forward, it's really hurting our mobility with almost barely making any change to our accuracy at all. So in that case, we actually tune backwards as long as it doesn't hurt the accuracy, to give us a little bit of that mobility. 0.25 towards aim walking speed, because it's not hurting our accuracy and our aiming idle stability with this particular attachment on this particular gun. Boom. We have now tuned our gun. And the last thing you got to do is save it. And that's it. Voila. You've just now learned how to tune in DMZ. I hope it helps.